Let your whole life be sacred. Everything becomes special. Gratitude before you eat. Grateful for the company also that you get to keep. Grateful for the land that you're on right now, the home that you have, the people that you get to be around. Grateful for the community you get to be with. Grateful for the teachers and teachings that have guided all of us from the dark into the light. Make everything sacred. Everything becomes special. Every interaction, even the hard ones, are also sacred. There's nothing that's not sacred, from the relationship with yourself and your own body to the relationship with others, whatever kinds of relationships, all of them, your relationship with the planet and with food, your relationship to your mind and to your spirit, your relationship with all of it. It's all sacred. Welcome to In the Circle. I am Tommy Rosen, and I'm delighted to see these three radiant human beings here in front of me. And this is our opportunity, as we do each week, to come together and explore in the deepest way we possibly can the intricate, complex, magical, and mystical puzzle pieces of the human condition. One of the things I've heard when people comment about this In the Circle podcast is they say, you know, Tommy, this is not a podcast that's only for people who have struggled with addiction. This is for everybody, because we really just are covering the human condition. So I love to just state that up front, that I'm aware that this is a podcast for all human beings. And we come together in earnestness to do some looking and seeking and exploring, and to look at different things. When somebody comes into the circle and they bring an earnest inquiry in, it helps everybody. It's relevant for everybody who's in this circle. And this circle that we're talking about is global. It is the circle of humanity. And anybody that happens to tune into this particular circle takes their seat in this circle and benefits from the inquiries that you bring to the table. So thank you. Thank you so much. Which one of you brave souls would like to begin our journey today? Hi, Gwen. How are you?
Yeah, I'm well, thank you. I'm wonderful. Little nervous, to be honest with you. This is outside my comfort zone, which is actually part of my question. So I want to thank you, first of all, for giving us this space. And I found you about 8 years ago in this community, and it was a game changer for me. So I have so much gratitude for you and everything you do for the whole world.
Thank you, Gwen. Thank you so much.
Incredible. You're incredible. So I've been very fortunate to be on this journey for about 10 years of sobriety, and it's been amazing. I have an amazing life. I have a wonderful life. What's been coming up for me lately is I've noticed that I keep my life and myself very small, like painfully small. Like I've put myself in a box. And it reminds me of active addiction in a way. And, you know, for the last 10 years, it's been amazing growth and spirituality and connectedness and stuff like that. But I still feel myself shrinking more often than not. And so it's almost like I take a back seat to my own life. I'm not willing to be in the center of my own story sometimes. And it gets painful. It really gets painful to step back that far and try and know that I can do it. Like I know it's there, and I'm not going to put it in a procrastination category. It's more of holding, like something I'm holding back. And gosh, it just reminds me, I was thinking about it this week before talking to you when I was a little girl and I'd go to the community pool and there'd be the high dive. You know, and I really wanted to go off the high dive. And all summer long, I would look at that high dive and I'd be like, oh, I know I can do it. And then at the very end of the summer, I'd climb up the steps and I'd get to the edge and I'd be like, ugh, not this summer, you know, like, and then I would go back down. It's like that close. It's so close. I could see it. I could touch it. And again, when I was young, like I had no fear. And so somewhere along the road, I feel like my fierceness turned into fear. And
Hmm.
I miss like living like that. Um, and again, an active addiction. I said yes to everything. I think we call it liquid courage at times, right? So yes to this and yes to that and yes to this. And now it just feels like it's right there. It's so close. I mean, I feel it in my body. I feel it when we practice sadna. I feel it on retreats. I feel it every day. I feel it's right here. I just can't step into it, I guess, is the question. And so, it feels to me like there's a knock at the door and I'm afraid to open the door.
Hmm.
So I know you shared about emotional bottoms in sobriety. I don't know if it's a bottom. It feels more like an edge. Like I'm
Yes.
coming up an edge over and over and over again. I'm coming to an edge and it's getting painful. So I think the question that I actually wrote in was like, I want a big life. I want that. I want that joy to come. I want my insides and outsides to match. I had a friend who had a sign in her kitchen. It said, why not a big life? And I journal about that all the time. Like, why not? And I can't get to the answer. And so I think that's my question to you.
Beautiful.
Child's precious, sober, wonderful life. And,
Yes. Beautiful. I love this inquiry so much. I want to ask you one or two questions before diving in to explore this. The first question is, when you say, I want a big life, or why not a big life? Can you describe any aspect of that big life that you could have that you're not living now? What you imagine that big life might look like or be like?
So I think I do things, there's so many things I do that fulfill me. Art and writing and poetry and yoga and all this stuff. And I just feel like it's all internal. Like I've spent so much of this journey learning and now to live into it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
What would it look like? You described in one of the retreats walking around through like an open for business sign. I love that. I
Mm-hmm.
love, most of the time my sign's little. It's like, oh, I'm over here and I'm over here, but that big, like open for business.
Okay. And can you from your heart name a desire, an unrealized desire or goal or a creation you'd like to see manifest in your life or in the world?
Um, I, I guess to take everything that I've been learning and growing and just to share it more. I think to bring it out more. Like I did a 200-hour yoga teacher training I've never taught. I went through training with Nikki Myers, Y12SR, which I love, love, love everything about it. And I can't bring it forth.
Okay. All right. Very good. So I'm just going to dive in and then come back and visit you in a little bit. When I was a kid, I went up on that high dive board that you described, and I walked to the end of it, and I must have been 8 years old. It might as well have been 1,000-foot chasm beneath me, is how I felt standing on the edge of that diving board. This is a true story. And I went out there a few times and I recoiled from it. I went back down the steps. I just couldn't make the jump. Couldn't make the jump, And then I think on the third time, maybe the next weekend, I'd gone back. My dad was taking me to the pool. And I went up to that high dive board and I looked over it. I mean, I was so gripped in my stomach. I can feel the fear now of standing on the edge of that high dive board, which was probably 10 feet, I guess, above the water, And I recoiled from it. And I turned around. Only now on the other end of the diving board, I hadn't noticed that my father had climbed up on the board. So I would turn around and I was ready to walk back on the diving board. And there was my father, and he was walking towards me, and he had that look in his face. And I was like, no, no. And he's like, absolutely. It's now. You're going now. You're going now. And he picked me up and he threw me off the board, threw me in the water. Absolutely. And I hit the water and I was fine. I got out of the water. I walked up and I jumped off on my own. Now, for some reason, I needed that. I needed that the first time. I just needed, I needed to be pushed. I wasn't going to do it on my own. And my dad saw it and he understood there was no danger. Nowadays, parents could be thrown in jail for throwing their kid off the board, but it was great. Right? I really, really love it. I love that he did it, and it was the right move. And it's just absolutely, you need to see that there's no danger. You need to see that it's okay. You need to have the experience before. You have to step, literally, it's a great metaphor for life. You have to step off the board into the unknown and be willing to experience that experience. And there's a faith to it. And there's a willingness to it and a surrender, of course. The minute you step off that board, that's it. You're not going to step back on that board. You're going to hit the water. And this is life, and as I look at my life, and I've shared this many, many times, that for whatever reason, I didn't plan the way some people plan to do anything that I'm currently doing. I did not plan to experience addiction in the way that I have in my life. I certainly didn't plan that. I did not expect that I would become a drug addict in my life. I didn't plan for that. And I didn't plan to get sober. And I didn't plan to become a yogi. Not at all. Not a single thought of this in my childhood. Nothing. There was no projection of, I'll be this someday. When I got sober, and there was that surrender of the way things had been, what I did not understand was the depth of the surrender I was actually making. Because that surrender of, okay, I'm going to get sober now, the way the universe heard that was, okay, I'll do what you tell me I have to do. I have been up on that board, on that high dive board, basically for the rest of my life. And at every turn, I tried to walk back and to go back down those stairs. And it wasn't my father, but it was the great spirit, inspiration, intelligence, something compelling me or refusing to allow me to go back. I have had no choice. I keep ending up on that board. And I keep ending up in places that I didn't plan to end up, but it's the most magical and incredible journey. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I wouldn't trade it for anything. So the question for any person, for all of us, is, what is my heartfelt desire? Which is why I was asking you, tell me what it looks like, this big life. What's the heartfelt desire? See, the heartfelt desire for me was to live in such a way that I could push beyond limitation, my own or the limitations presented to me culturally, familially, or by society. I actually like to push beyond those limitations. There's joy in it for me. And I find that beyond those limitations, there's something called presence, authenticity, me. Authentically me connecting with me. What that means is me connecting with the spirit that runs through me. Me in collaboration with the spirit that runs through me. The spirit that runs through me, that intelligence, has something it wants to experience and is expressing it through me. And I can show up and have that experience, which is called authentic experience for me. Or I can miss it. And when I miss it, I feel like something's missing. The thing that I came to do. Not because I planned it in the conventional sense of sitting down and, okay, let's do a board now. We're going to do a future wisdom board. I'm going to do my, I'll put up all the things that I want to manifest in my life and I'll manifest all those things. That's never been my way. My willingness has been to step into the present moment, which is unknown, and to learn how to be there with skill, and then to do the next right thing that my life is calling me to do. I have needed to do things in my life that also I hadn't planned, like writing a book. I thought maybe I did have a thought in my later adolescence. Well, wow, I've experienced a lot of weird things in my life. Wouldn't it be interesting if I wrote a book? Okay. But I certainly didn't plan to be a writer. I certainly didn't plan to start Recovery 2.0. I didn't plan for my back to go out and for my body to fail me back in 2003. I didn't plan to meet a guru and take spiritual lessons from a teacher. And then I didn't plan to write that book, and I didn't plan to co-create something called Recovery 2.0. But what I did plan was a willingness to work at being more and more present and to address the things that were coming up in my life that were bothering me. Relationships or money or career or creativity. These things, that commitment to just being willing to explore what's going on for me today. How do I want to live my life? And that's what brings you to the table right here now in this inquiry. There are 3 things needed for any person to create anything in time and space. Heartfelt desire. We'll call these the 3 Ds. Desire, and I mean heartfelt desire. I mean a deep desire in your heart to experience something. And part of the work is to identify specifically what that desire is in the moment. Maybe life is showing you what it is. An example for me would be when I did sit down to write that book, I was overflowing with words and ideas. Couldn't sit still with the words and ideas, fueled by the healing I had experienced due to the teachings and love of my teacher, and knowing that I had to pass it on. I couldn't sit with it. It was the next logical thing to sit still. But how would I do it? I had never done it before. And that brings us to the second D. The first D is desire, heartfelt desire. The second D is direction, meaning we all need a teacher. We all need direction. We need directions on how to do it. How would I write a book? You know what was the biggest hindrance to me writing a book? Certainly not writing sentences, because I'm really good with words. I always have been. I love language, I love words, and I love to express myself. So those are gifts of mine. The hardest thing for me, how am I going to sit still? That, for me, was the thing that is the miracle of the book Recovery 2.0, is that I needed direction on finding a way to sit still and how I could get these ideas, sit still long enough for ideas to come into words. Long enough. And so there were strategies. And I spoke to writers, and I spoke to yogis, and I spoke to people who express themselves. And I said, listen, I'm expressing some things that are also emotionally charged for me to express. And when I'm expressing emotionally charged things, guess what I want to do? Leave. I want to leave. I want to go away from this. And so I was compelled to want to leave and not sit there. And so I needed strategies, and I had to speak to people. I had to get direction on how to do it. And then later on, of course, I would need direction on how to shape and sculpt ideas and paragraphs into chapters, and then how to shape chapters into sections and how to shape sections into a book, a manuscript that somebody could read and go along a progression and feel like, okay, this makes sense to me. I needed to learn all of that in order to express my heartfelt desire, which was to write this book. The third D is, if there's two of them, we're only counting three, but the first word is discipline. And what we mean by that word is the ability to apply the direction that you've gained. So I'm disciplined in the sense of a disciple, like I'm a disciple, a student. I'm a student of the thing I've just learned, the directions I've gotten from the experts. Now I have to put those things into practice. So I become a student of those directions, and I become steady one day at a time, showing up and putting those directions into action and learning how to do it by doing it. That's the discipline piece of it. Then there's this other word, devotion. And those words are related. And I think what turns discipline into devotion is love. Discipline is to become a student of something. I'm a disciple of this teaching. I'm a disciple of this path. When you fall in love with the thing, now not only are you disciplined, but you're in love, and now you've got devotion. You're devoted. I'm devoted to this path. I'm devoted. And you start to feel, after just a little bit of momentum, I can feel that for better or for worse, this is going to get done. It's coming through me, and it's going to get completed. We, the greater we, are going to complete this task. It's going to happen. Do you understand what I'm saying? You can just give me a thumbs up. Okay. So those three things are helpful for me in manifesting or fulfilling or achieving goals, or seeing something come into form that's in my head. When you say, or anybody says, I want a bigger life, or I feel like I'm missing my life, the inquiry has to be, what aspect? What would the bigger life look like? If you're living your life 100% authentically, doing precisely what your heart and spirit are calling for, what is it? What does it look like? What is your heartfelt desire? It has to begin there. If you don't know your heartfelt desire, that's okay. Your heartfelt desire, therefore, becomes finding your heartfelt desire. That becomes your mission. How do you do it? You read, you write, you look, you explore, you talk to people, you do something unexpected, something that normally you wouldn't do. Maybe you've never played piano or played an instrument. All of a sudden you're like, you know what? I'm going to play an instrument. Just because it occupies your focus and your mind and your heart in a certain direction, which leads you into new possibilities. This is part of the reason I love the practice of yoga so much, because that also opens you up to new possibilities. And let's remember, the yoga I'm speaking about is not just on the mat. I'm talking about getting off of the mat and then looking at the world and understanding how you want to engage in it, and then going about that. You will find yourself on the diving board. You will find yourself nervous, out of your comfort zone once again. And that's okay. Because if you're supposed to be there, the spirit of the universe will block you from getting down. And they will pick you up and toss you into the water. And you will notice that it didn't hurt, that there was no danger, that this is exactly what you were born for and meant to be doing. And now all you have to do is do it and show up in a one day at a time kind of way. Now, there's so many things that get in the way of us identifying our heartfelt desire. Fear, other people's opinions can block us. Old stories that we carry about ourselves. I'm not good enough to do this. I'm not going to be able to do it. That story can really block a person for a lifetime if they don't get past that story. And of course, that's not true. That's not a true story, but we can attach to that story and we can make it true and live in the illusion of that untrue story. So we have to be very, very careful and be very watchful and aware of what our inner dialogue is. There's nothing stopping you from doing within the boundaries of physics. There's nothing stopping you from living your life the way you want to. You have the great luxury of freedom and free choice. Free will. Where will you put your energy? If you find yourself waking up and it's Groundhog Day, every day the same thing, every day the same thoughts, that's a time to really get engaged in something immersive and change things up. And it doesn't have to be the thing that you're ultimately going to want to be doing, but it's something to change things up. Music, art, nature, yoga, writing, some kind of retreat, some kind of immersive experience that starts to liberate you and free you up and create new possibilities for you. Like the analogy I see in my mind is going into a closet, emptying out all your old clothes. Now that's an analogy, but if you have a lot of old clothes in your closet, I highly recommend it. Go in there and get rid of it. Ruthless. And make room for something new to come in. Make room for something new. So now I'm going to go to a little bit more of an esoteric mental place. You wake up in the morning, not you, but you or anybody. Thoughts come into your head. Let's say those thoughts skew a little bit negative. This is going to be another one of those days. I have a lot to do today. I have to get through this day. Or maybe I don't know what to do with my life or this day. Or I'm perfectly happy. What seems to be the problem? What's wrong with me? Or whatever the low grade or higher grade stress, anxiety, worrisome thoughts might be. Most people wake up in that way these days. When you have that kind of thinking, emotions come along with it. Now, what's that thinking based upon? That thinking, if you trace it back, is the same thinking you had yesterday when you woke up. And it's the same thinking you had the day before that. And the day before that, and the day before that. And all of that thinking is simply based in the discomfort of being disconnected from oneself and experiences that happen in the past. That past is predictable because we know what happened. But we also know that our memory is a little bit skewed also. We don't remember things exactly as they happened. We don't experience the world as it is. We experience the world through our filters. We experience the world as we are. So here we are waking up in the morning with these same thoughts that we had for however many days before. And the same emotions are arising. And we'll get out of bed and we'll go through our same morning routine. We'll have the same tone of voice. We'll eat generally the same foods. We'll meet the same people or the same kinds of people with the same frequency and vibration in their own life. We'll go about the same work we've been doing, and we'll go to bed, and we'll do it again the next day. So we're living a life based on a predictable past. And so what ends up happening is we can very much predict the future. And the spontaneity has been lost. The creativity has been lost. The unknown aspect of life, the magic and the mystery of it, has been lost. And so this thing that I'm describing is how almost everybody is on the planet today. And nobody can tolerate it. So you have to take drugs, and you have to drink, and you have to buy some shit. And you've got to act out in a variety of different ways to pass time. To pass time. You can do it in so many ways. When we get into that kind of habit of getting through a day or passing time, and the intention and the magic and the mystery of life is lost, we start to feel like we're missing our life. The greatest thing about this inquiry is it gives every single one of us pause. Am I living this life the way I desire to be living it or not? There can't be a more important, relevant inquiry than this one. To break out of the pattern and the attachment to the past at the level of thinking and emotions, we have to change things up. In our community, Recovery 2.0, we recommend morning practice, sadna practice. Sadna is a word, a Sanskrit word, which means, it means a couple things. On the one hand, it simply means spiritual practice, but there's also a connotation of orientation to spirit. Sadhana being orientation to spirit, meaning the spirit that runs through you. You see, while we're in bed thinking all these untrue things and creating anxiety, worry, fear, depression, and loneliness, our spirit, the spirit that runs through us, is looking for another experience, not that. And in order to orient to spirit, we get up out of bed. We change our morning routine. Maybe we get in a cold shower, ice cold, just because it's different. Maybe we scrape our tongue. Maybe so many of us have never done that. You get a tongue scraper at any, and you scrape your tongue. You floss your teeth. Maybe you do it with a little more awareness than you did before. You brush your teeth. You go to the bathroom. Maybe instead of having that cup of coffee, you have a glass of water with lemon juice squeezed into it, and you get onto your yoga mat and you start to do some very profound movement and breath, which changes the frequency, changes your mind, changes what you're thinking about, and opens a gateway in front of you. It's an invisible gateway, and the gateway leads to something else. It's the gateway to something else. And then you go out and you're not thinking those same things anymore, and you're not feeling those same things anymore, and you're not meeting the same people anymore or doing the same thing anymore. You don't find yourself in the same environment anymore because now you're in this thing called the present moment. You have literally opened yourself up to the conveyor belt of experience from the universe. You don't know what's coming. You're on the board. You're on the high dive board now. And you take risks from that place, appropriate risks. You say things like, I'm going to do a 30-day digestive tract cleanse. Or you say, I'm going to train for a marathon. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to pick up a musical instrument, or I already play the guitar. I'm going to really work on it. I'm going to paint a painting. I'm going to go somewhere I've never gone before. I'm going to go to work in a different way than I normally go. I'm going to go around a different street, a different block. I'm going to change what I'm experiencing in my life and see what happens. I'm going to open myself up to this collaboration and see what happens. Maybe I don't know your personal life, if you're with a partner, if you're single, if you have children, or any of that. This is for everybody. Maybe if you're single, there's someone that you've been attracted to, and maybe you call them up and say, I would like to spend some time with you. And you take that risk. It's just in every interaction, there's an opportunity to be present and honest and kind and flowing with what is. And you'd be amazed what comes down the pipe when you open yourself up in that kind of way. And sometimes you're going to have to experience emotions that you don't necessarily like fear or sadness or whatever it is. And a lot of other times you're going to experience emotions which are excitement and, plugging into love and plugging into connection. And it's all of it. There's no guarantee. It's just the guarantee is you'll be living life really present, really in the here and now. And I'm a big, big advocate for this. It's an improvisational life. So we have to break out of the patterns that no longer serve us without knowing more deeply about you. I can't know what those patterns are for you, but you know. And when you can say so clearly, I want a bigger life. I want to really connect with life. I want to really live life fully. You have the capability to do it. And it's linked to your heartfelt desire. If you don't know what it is, then go and seek it. And just in the seeking of it, that will be enough to bring you to the places you're supposed to be with the people you're supposed to be with, doing the things you're supposed to do. And then to be grateful for the joys and the challenges of life. Finally, invite the sacred in to everything that you do. Let your whole life be sacred. Everything becomes special. From eating, and you're saying a prayer always of gratitude before you eat. Grateful for the company also that you get to keep. Grateful for the land that you're on right now, the home that you have, the people that you get to be around. Grateful for the community you get to be with. Grateful for the teachers and teachings that have guided all of us from the dark into the light. Make everything sacred. Everything becomes special. Every interaction, even the hard ones, are also sacred. You have to have a difficult conversation with somebody, God's there with you. What my sponsor told me, one of the great, great lessons of my life, no matter where you go, bring God with you. Bring the Spirit with you. Bring the sacred with you. There's nothing that's not sacred. From the relationship with yourself and your own body to the relationship with others, whatever kinds of relationships, all of them, your relationship with the planet and with food, your relationship to your mind and to your spirit, your relationship with all of it. It's all sacred. So you're imbuing life with a reverence and a power and an excitement. What helps with this? having an altar in your home, a sacred space, and spend more time there. I wear these things. I've got some things on. I love them. I don't often or regularly use these for japa, meditation practice. Sometimes I do, but not so often. But that's not why I have this. This for me is a reminder of the sacred, and it works for me. I feel it. There's energy to this for me. There's a little pendant here with a deity on there that has meaning for me. These seeds, these 108 seeds, this has meaning for me. I need this as a reminder. It's so helpful for me to bring the sacred into my life. This is called a kata from the Sikh tradition. I love it. Am I Sikh? The word Sikh means student. So in a way, I am Sikh. Am I a religious Sikh and I follow all the Sikh precepts? No, I don't. But I love them and I revere them. And I wear that. It has an inscription on it, and that inscription means something very special to me. And just having that on reminds me of the sacred. And then, in a way, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. It's all sacred. That changes the hue of my entire life right there. Gratitude is the result of all of it. I'm entering a force field of gratitude. Once I'm there, it's like a feeling, an energy. The words that are associated with it are thank you. There's no other words. That's it. It's not thank you, but. It's not thank you, and. It's just thank you. I'm so grateful. One can be grateful and also have an unmet, as of yet, heartfelt desire. I'm grateful. Thank you. Now, I'm alive. I have a heartfelt desire. I'm so grateful. I know that. It's sacred. I'm so grateful I get to pursue it. Just the pursuing of it. And I'm going to let go of whether I get there or not. I get to pursue it. Wow. Wow. And from there, you're on the diving board. and the world and life and universe and intelligence and all the right people are going to be right there on that board with you and taking that jump. So embrace and invite the sacred. You'll feel more and more gratitude in just the pursuit of the thing that is your heartfelt desire. And you'll enlist people to get direction when you need it so that you can fulfill the heartfelt desire. And you'll become a student of serving the moment and fulfilling the heartfelt desire and the directions that came to you. And you'll help other people who are on the diving board. You're going to stand on the diving board. You're going to throw them in because you know it's safe and because you know that they need to go. And it works like this. And then you're going to be devoted. And then you live in devotion and in gratitude in a sacred world that you co-created. And that's where it's at. So let me come back to you, Gwen, and I want to ask what comes up for you. Any details you want to share that maybe came to you as you heard this exploration.
Thank you, Tommy. I think just listening to you having similar experiences, getting to on the high dive over and over and over again brings so much comfort. And I equated, I did really well. I'm doing really well in the journey of getting rid of the old stories, but I didn't realize that I was equating smallness with safety, and the way you walked us through it with the gratitude and the sacred and instilling all this into it is safe. That is where it is, right? To live fully into all of it is that being held in the palm, right? That's where it is. So it felt so comforting to hear those words. And my second thought is just jump. I mean, like I can process things to death, right? I can write them down. I can do this. I can do it all. I just need to jump. So thank you. Thanks for the push.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the inquiry. And I would ask you sincerely, I'd like to know how it unfolds for you in the next week or so. I'd like to know what comes and what your jump meant. And I hope that we'll get to hear about it in the community.
Yes. Well, this is my first jump right here. When I got an invitation to be in this circle, that was a high dive move.
Gorgeous.
Right? So thank you.
Gorgeous. Power move. Truly power move. Thank you, Gwen, so much.